Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Champions video. Today Fantasy Flight announced their newest campaign box for Marvel Champions. It is called the Mad Titan Shadow, and just by that name we know it's going to be dealing with Thanos and the Black Order. So we're getting two new heroes in this box as well. So we're getting Adam Warlock and Spectrum. So the way I'm going to break these videos up, they're going to both get recorded and posted at about the same time. But the first video, that is this video, is going to be featuring the cards that have been revealed for Adam Warlock's deck and Spectrum's deck. And then the next video will be featuring the villains that have been revealed for the campaign, which are Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, and of course Thanos. So first up here, we're going to get into the Adam Warlock deck. So first up here, we have Adam Warlock. He's a Mystic, comes in with 3 recovery, has a hand size of 6 with 11 hit points, and has the Avatar of Life. So during deck building, you must include an equal number of cards from all 4 aspects. You cannot include more than 1 copy of any non-Adam Warlock card. And as an action, discard a card from your hand, remove a status card from Adam Warlock. So discard a card to get rid of like a stun or a confuse or something like that. So there's a couple other characters that are allowed to kind of break the deck building rules. And so far those have been Spider-Woman, who can include cards from 2 different aspects, and Gamora, who can include a certain number of attack or thwart cards from aspects other than the one that she's using in her deck. Adam Warlock looks like he's the first character that's allowed to use cards from all 4 aspects. I suppose you can use, I suppose Gamora could also do that if you were to just, but you're limited on the number of cards that you can use with Gamora. I think it's like 6 total between attack and thwart. But this one you're required to include cards, an equal number of cards from all 4 aspects, and then again discard a card to get rid of the status effect. We're gonna move into the Adam Warlock hero side. So here we have Adam Warlock on his hero side. Hand size goes down to 5, 11 hit points, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 defense. He's a Guardian and a Mystic, and has the Battle Mage action. So as an action, discard 1 card from your hand, limit once per phase. If that card is Aggression, deal 2 damage to an enemy. Justice, remove 2 threat from a scheme. Protection, heal 1 damage from an ally. And Leadership, give a hero +1 thwart and +1 attack and +1 defense this round. So basically, that's why you're going to be building his deck using all 4 aspects, because you can discard a card from your hand. Depending on what aspect it is, it'll do a certain thing. I don't really know if Protection would be particularly good, because it looks like it only heals allies. But if there's an ally you really want to kind of stick around, you could discard a card to keep them healed. I definitely see Aggression and Justice being probably discarded more, just because you get to deal 2 damage with Aggression. Justice gets to remove 2 threat. Leadership could also be useful because you get a character gets basically +1 in everything. So that is the Adam Warlock on the hero side. Let's move into some of his other cards. So first up we have Warlock's Cape. It's a 2-cost upgrade. It's an item. Generates a physical resource when you discard it. As a hero response, after you resolve Adam Warlock's Battle Mage ability, exhaust the cape to ready Adam Warlock. So this kind of almost feels a little bit like some of the stuff that Quicksilver can do. So let's go back to Adam Warlock for just a moment. So Battle Mage is you discard a card and then do whatever that is. That's once per phase. Let me see. Yeah, limit once per phase. So that means he could do the Battle Mage ability on his own turn, but also during the villain phase, he can also use, it looks like he can use it as well, because it's limited once per phase. And there's the hero phase, and then there's the villain phase. When I first played Quicksilver, I didn't realize that he basically gets that free defend when he's in, when you're in the villain phase. So with this, you can basically do this on your turn, do one of these abilities, or discard one of the cards and get one of the effects. You can then also attack with him, thwart with him as well. At the end of the phase, you're going to basically ready Adam Warlock when you draw up to your maximum hand size. And then after you can basically then do the Battle Mage on defense when you're defending or during the villain phase, and then basically if you defend with Adam Warlock, you can basically use defend, use the Battle Mage ability, exhaust the cape to ready Adam Warlock so he's ready to go for his next round. It's not quite as effective as Quicksilver's, but it's a cool way to get multiple uses out of Battle Mage, and essentially get a free defend if you use the Battle Mage ability. So that is his cape. Let's move into our next card. We have the Mystic Senses. It's a 2-cost upgrade. It's a condition and a superpower. Generates a mental resource when you discard it. And as a hero response, after you resolve Adam Warlock's Battle Mage ability, draw a card. So basically, you're discarding a card to use Battle Mage, and then if you have this upgrade, you're then getting a card. You're basically still keeping the same amount of cards in your hand. You're just discarding one to do the effect, and then drawing another one. So that is the Mystic Senses. To our next card here, we have the Karmic Blast. It's a 2-cost event. Generates a physical resource when you discard it. It's an attack and a superpower. As a hero action, attack, deal 4 damage to an enemy, and discard up to 4 cards from the top of your deck. Deal 1 additional damage to that enemy for each different aspect discarded this way: aggression, justice, leadership, and protection. So you're getting 4 damage for 2. That's pretty good. And which could potentially be 8 damage for 2 if the top 4 cards of your deck are all different aspects. So if you discard 2 aggression cards, it's only going to count as 1 damage. But if you have a way to kind of stack the top of your deck through like effects or abilities, you can basically stack it to where there's 1 of each aspect in order, basically. And then you can pay 2, do 4, discard 4. They're all going to be different aspects if they're like stacked properly. And then you're going to be dealing 8 damage for 2, which is really big. That's probably, like best case scenario. You're probably going to end up maybe doing just a couple extra damage, but still something like 6 damage for 2 is also still pretty good. Like, for example, in the Captain America deck, I think like one of the better cards in that deck is the Heroic Strike, which deals 6 and stuns an enemy if you use a certain resource, if you use a physical resource. But with Karmic Blast, you're getting at least you're going to be getting 5 damage potentially, based on, because like let's say you discard it, unless all the top cards of your deck are Adam Warlock specific cards or gray cards. But let's say you do the 4 damage and you discard 3 aggression cards. It's still 5 or 4 aggression cards. Let's say it's still 4 damage for 2. Best case, you're going to be getting 8. Probably minimum, you're going to be getting maybe 5, depending on between 4 and 5 on like the worst case scenario there. But that is Karmic Blast. We're going to move into the next card here. We have the Soul World. It's a 1-cost support. It's a location response. After your deck runs out of cards, place 1 soul counter here. It's an alter ego action. Exhaust Soul World and remove a soul counter from it to heal all damage from your identity. That's huge. So basically, I don't know how often you're going to be actually running through your deck, but it looks like Adam Warlock's going to have cards that will basically say like discard this many cards off the top of your deck, and then basically do extra damage that way, that kind of stuff. And then once your deck runs out, you'll get an encounter card when you go to draw cards. But basically, you put a soul counter on here. When you're in alter ego form, depending on like how much health you've lost, you can basically exhaust it, remove the counter, and then heal all damage. That is huge. So let's move into our next card here. All right, next up we have Quantum Magic. It's a 1-cost event. As an action, choose a card in your hand, or choose a card in your discard pile and add it to your hand. So basically, let's say you discarded a really good event as part of his Battle Mage ability. You can then basically pay 1 resource, choose the card, that event, or whatever it was, and put it back in your hand, and then potentially use it. So you can discard it for Battle Mage and then get it back. So that is Quantum Magic. We're going to move into our next card here. All right, next up we have Living Tribunal. It's a 2-cost event. It looks like it's not legendary, but unique, so there's only 1 of them. It's a cosmic entity. As an action, shuffle this card into the encounter deck without looking, and when it's revealed from the encounter deck, remove 2 threat from the main scheme, and remove this card from the game. This effect cannot be canceled. So that's interesting because you're basically putting a hero card in the encounter deck. Let's see. It's shuffling into the encounter deck without looking. So I wonder if this card if the backing of this card is blue because it's a hero card, or if it's going to be orange because it's going to be going into the encounter deck. So it's basically going into a villain deck. So I wonder if the card back is going to be, if you basically be able to tell where it is just by looking. I'd imagine if I'm just theorizing, I think it's probably going to be have an orange back just so it matches the encounter deck. But that's very interesting because basically, like, let's say the villain does a boost. This comes out, doesn't have any boost icons on it, so they're not going to get any kind of benefit to their scheme or their attack. And then also at the same time, it's going to remove 2 threat from the main scheme. So that's pretty good. So that is the Living Tribunal. We're going to move into our next card. All right, next up we have Zone of Silence. It's a 1-cost event. It's a spell and a thwart. So play only if your identity has the Mystic trait, max 1 per deck. As an action, thwart, choose a scheme and discard up to 4 cards from the top of your deck. Remove 1 threat from the scheme for each card discarded this way. So I like that it is, you can do up to 4. So let's say the scheme has 4 threat on it. You can discard up to 4 cards, remove all 4 of the threat tokens. If there's only like 1 or 2 threat on the scheme, let's say it's like a side scheme that you want to get rid of, you basically pay 1, discard a card, and get rid of that 1 scheme, or get rid of that 1 threat. So that is the pretty good. That is the Zone of Silence. We're going to move into our next card. All right, next up we have Shield Spell. It's a 0 cost event. It's defense and the spell. Play only if your identity has the Mystic trait, max 1 per deck. And as a hero interrupt, defense, when you would take any amount of damage from an attack, discard that many cards on the top of your deck to prevent all damage from this attack. So this is an Adam Warlock's deck. Let's say he takes 4 damage. He basically plays this, and then discards 4 cards to prevent the damage, or whatever the amount of damage is. And then that, since you're getting rid of cards, it's going to be helping you run through your deck. So you can potentially, if you have Soul World out, you can get it out, get the counter on it, and then use it to basically heal all your health. So that is Spell Shield, or Shield Spell. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Summoning Spell, 2 cost event. It's a spell. Play only if your identity has the Mystic trait, max 1 per deck. As a hero action, discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard an ally. Put that ally into play under your control. So again, helps you burn through your deck to maybe potentially use Soul World, but also lets you get an ally out for free. So if you have if you know kind of like where some of your allies in your deck are, or you know which allies are coming up, like let's say you have like an expensive ally that costs like 4 or 5 resources, you can basically pay 2 and get it out for just 2 essentially by playing Summoning Spell instead. So again, helps you also burn through your deck for Soul World. So that is Summoning Spell. We're going to move into our next card here. All right, next up we have this card fan. And everything in this card fan we've seen with the exception of Cosmic Awareness. So Cosmic Awareness looks like it's a 2 cost event. Have no idea what it actually does yet. I imagine that'll be coming up in we'll probably be seeing more and more spoilers as the months lead up to the release of this in August. So that is all the cards from Adam Warlock. All right, and we are back with the Monaco Rambeau deck. Last saw her in WandaVision, so she's getting a deck as well in this campaign box. So Monaco Rambeau has 3 recovery. She's a civilian. Comes in with a hand size of 6 with 11 hit points. Setup: put all 3 energy form upgrades into play face down, and has the force response of power down. After you change to this form, turn all your energy form upgrades face down. So Monaco Rambeau is going to basically have these 3 energy cards, and that she can switch between these 3 different energy forms. And depending on what energy form she is in, she'll have different abilities. So we'll take a look. Let's go take a look at her hero side here. So that's Monaco Rambeau. That's the alter ego side. And next up, we have Spectrum. This is her hero form. So hand size goes down to 5 with 11 hit points. 1 thwart, 1 attack, 1 defense. She has aerial, and she's an Avenger. And then has the energy transformation force response. So after you change to this form, choose a face down energy form upgrade. Flip it face up to change to that energy form. So basically, again, there's these 3 energy forms. And when you change from alter ego to hero, you will choose one of the face down energy forms and flip it over. So basically, when you go back to the alter ego side, all the energy forms get face down. When you flip over to flip into Spectrum, you choose one to flip face up. So that is Spectrum. Let's go ahead and take a look at her first card here. And this is the first energy form here. So it doesn't have the resource cost or anything like that. And it's a energy form. It's a permanent setup. So basically, this is Gamma form. So Spectrum gets +2 attack. And hero response: after you change to this form, deal 1 damage to an enemy. So basically, you're going to have forms that do basically attack, thwart, and defense. So this is the Gamma form. Next up here, we have the Photon Form. So it's an energy form, and it's also a permanent setup. When you basically go into this form, you get +2 thwart. And after you change to this form, remove a threat from a scheme. Remove 1 threat from a scheme. So that is Photon. So that's her second energy form. And then her third energy form is Pulsar, it's an energy form and it's a permanent. Spectrum gets +2 defense as a hero response. After you change to this energy form, heal 1 damage from Spectrum. And you notice that each of these, even though they're a permanent setup, they have an energy resource generated. So that generates an energy resource. That generates a mental resource, and that generates a physical resource. We'll get to those in just a moment. I think it might be even the next card. Let's take a look. Yeah, here it is. So next up is Energy Duplication. It's a 2-cost upgrade. It's a superpower. Generates a wild resource if you discard it. And as a hero response, exhaust Energy Duplication to generate the printed resource on your face-up energy card. So whatever energy form you're in, if you have Energy Duplication in play, you basically exhaust it to gain one of those energies. One of the either, again, energy, mental, or physical. So basically, it turns those into an energy that you can use, or a resource that you can use to play cards later on. So that seems like it could be like a really strong card. It's basically, it's going to, depending on what form you're in, you basically just exhaust this and then generate that type of resource. So if you have cards that are dependent on certain resources, you might want to stay in a certain form to basically get the effect of using that kind of resource. Or, like, again, it almost just reduces the cost of most of the stuff you're going to play by 1 if you have this in play. So that is Energy Duplication. Let's go ahead and move into our next card. Next up, we have Pulsar Shield. It's a 1-cost event. Its defense and the superpower generates an energy resource when you discard it. Hero Interrupt Defense. When Spectrum defends, change to Pulsar Energy form and Ready Spectrum. If you were already in Pulsar Energy form, she gains Retaliate 1 until the end of the phase. So if you're in that form already, you get Retaliate. If you're not in that form, you also basically go into that form, and I believe you get 2 defense, like +2 defense. So when you defend, you can flip into Pulsar form, get the extra defense. If you're already in that, you also gain that extra that and Retaliate. So that is Pulsar Shield. We're gonna move into the next card here. All right, next up we have Speed of Light, 0-cost event, generates a wild resource when you discard it. It's a superpower, and as a hero action, change energy forms and draw cards. So depending on what energy form you're in, be like, hey, I need more attack this turn. I'm going to play this event. I'm going to change to the Gamma form, and I'm also going to get to draw a card. So that is Speed of Light. It's pretty good depending on, like, you can basically just play this and get into the energy form that you need for whatever situation you might be in. So that is that one. Let's go ahead and move into the next card. All right, next up we have White Tiger. This is an ally. It's a 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack with 1 incidental damage each. Comes in with 2 hit points. Response, after you play White Tiger from your hand, draw X cards to a maximum of 3, where X is equal to the villain's stage number. If the villain has no stage number, draw a card. So depending on what, like, late game, better late game because you get to draw, if villain's in stage 3, you get to draw 3 cards. If it's stage 2, you draw 2. Stage 1, you draw a card. If it has no stage, you still get to draw a card. So that is White Tiger. We're going to move into our next card. All right, next up we have Kalu, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. 2-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack with 1 incidental damage each. Generates an energy resource if you discard it. 2 hit points. It's an Avenger and a Mystic. And after Kalu enters play, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an event. Add that event to your hand and shuffle your deck. So pretty basic. Basically can attack twice, thwart twice potentially, but also lets you basically tutor and event for the top 5 of your deck, which is pretty good. So that is Kalu. Let's go into our next card. All right, next up we have Mighty Avengers. It's a 3-cost support. Generates an energy resource when you discard it. It's a team card. So play under any player's control. Max 1 team card per player. If each of your characters has the Avenger trait, each ally you control gets +1 thwart and +1 attack. So basically, going to be putting it into an Avengers deck, because if all your characters have that trait, they get that bonus. So that is Mighty Avengers. We're going to move into our next card. All right, next up we have Power Man. It's a 3-cost ally. Generates a mental resource when you discard him. He's an Avenger. Comes in with 3 hit points. And Power Man enters play with 2 chi counters on him. And we should also note here. So 1 thwart for 1 incidental damage. 0 attack for 2 incidental damage. Then comes in with those 2 chi counters. And action, discard any number of chi counters from Power Man. He has +2 attack for each chi counter discarded this way until the end of the phase. So end of the phase is big because it could be potentially means he'll have that +2 attack or potentially +4 attack during the villain phase. If you have like a card that lets you deal damage without attacking, like say like deal damage to a villain equal to the attack on an ally, that would work there. But basically comes in with those 2 counters. You can discard both of them. Like he's going to take 2 incidental damage per attack. So it looks like he can get basically up to like 2 attacks or three thwarts. But if you let's say he does a thwart, gets rid of the scheme, gets rid of the threat, and then next time he's out, he's going to attack. He discards both G counters, gets +4 attack, and then attacks for 4. So that is Power Man. We're going to move into our next card. All right, next up we have Mass Attack. It's a 3-cost event. Attack, it's a hero action. Attack, exhaust 3 allies you control that share a trait with your hero. Deal X damage to an enemy where X is the total attack of those allies and your hero. I can see this being a huge card in a Star-Lord like allies deck, because basically you're getting your allies to deal damage without them taking incidental damage from attacking themselves, and you're adding your attack into it as well. And again, with Star-Lord, you can get this out for free using his ability where, like, if this is the first card you play, you basically get a face-down encounter card, reduce the cost of it by 3, so it comes out for free. And then basically you add up all the attack of all your, or 3 of your allies, exhaust them, and then add your attack in there as well. So Mass Attack could be, I think, a huge card, especially a huge card for leadership. If you're playing like the Doctor Strange allies deck or the newer Star-Lord decks that are running a ton of allies as well, because basically you can make your characters guardians in that sense. So basically he can turn those other characters into guardians, or if they're already guardians already, that's great too. And then basically exhaust them. They don't take any incidental damage, and then they just combine all that damage with your hero's attack, which is great. So that is Mass Attack. We're going to move into our next card. And next up here we have another card fan. Everything we have revealed today or talked about so far, with the exception of Gamut Blast, just looks like it's a 3-cost event. Something about 7, maybe doing 7 damage. Not really sure. But I'm sure that card will be revealed at some point. But that is all the cards we've seen for both Adam Warlock and for Spectrum. That's going to do it for this video. I'm going to now record the video for the villain side of the box, which is, again, Ebony Maw, Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, and Thanos. And some of the stuff in those sets looks really interesting. So basically this video will go up first. The one for the villains will go up right afterward. I just broke it up just because there's a lot of cards, and it would just be a fairly long video if I did it all at once. So watch this video, then go ahead and watch the one for the villains. Really looking forward to this. It's supposed to be coming out in August if all goes well. I'm not even don't even know what the power level on this campaign is going to be. Like, if it's anything like Galaxy's Most Wanted, I think we're going to be in for some very big challenges going up against Thanos. I think Thanos could potentially be, depending on like what exactly he does in the game, could be one of the probably trickier villains to actually get around, because he will be having the Infinity Stones. So stones will be doing have different effects and that kind of thing. So again, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you on the flip side for the villains. That's going to do it for this part of the video. Thanks again for watching, and take care.